I noticed on the back of the sheet it talks about sabotage.
Uh-huh.
Could you explain a little bit more about what sabotage is?
Well, why don't you read that definition for all of us again, and then we'll see if we can't explain it a bit more.
Okay, sabotage, when we ignore or choose not to practice what we have learned in RI, when we do not do what is best for our mental health.
So, Kelly, you chose to bite your tongue rather than give in and babble on and say things you might have been sorry for. And you were not sabotaging. You were looking to do what was best for your mental health. But if you had started blurting things out, even though you knew that wasn't going to be best for your mental health, a lot would have happened. And in Bob's example, if Bob had gone ahead and indulged in that temper with his wife and started this whole thing rolling, he said there would have been quite a shouting match in their house. But instead, he chose to practice. Even though we may not practice 100%, Fred, he chose to practice that time. Bob?
This may be splitting hairs, but I think it's important to point out that a person who doesn't know any better, who doesn't understand how they're supposed to handle their temper, can't sabotage. It's only when they've been taught how to handle it and they don't do it. That's sabotage.
Yeah, if Hector's, who's been here now for a second time, went off and did something, he hasn't learned all the things that are going to help him. Yeah. But maybe he knew that he heard us say that we needed to control our speech muscles when he wanted to yell, and he'll go home tonight and not yell at somebody and think of you, Bob. And then he can endorse for his effort. And if 6 weeks from now he's not controlling his speech muscles, maybe he'd be indulging in sabotage. Sarah?
I still find, I mean, even having practiced for quite a while now, I'm still finding I'm confused by sabotage when balanced with the recovery spotting, don't rehash the past with regret. And how do you spot, should I be spotting sabotage on somebody else's example? And how do I balance that with my own tendency towards just self-blame?
Well, you know, there's one thing I want to say, and I didn't say it tonight, and Hector, I know I said it last week, but we are always free to accept or reject any spottings that anybody gives us.
So I can say to Fred, well, that's not applicable?
Well, Sarah, that may be criticizing. You might choose, if Fred had been sabotaging, you might choose to say in a cultured manner, I spotted some sabotage in Fred's example when he did something, but he didn't sabotage, so there wasn't any. But it's okay to mention that someone's sabotaging, but you're not going to look at Brian and say, Brian, for criminy's sake, you're sabotaging again.
Okay, but I guess what I was saying, like when you're talking about accepting, rejecting, it's in your own mind. You're not going to make a comment because we're not supposed to be talking after you've given the example. So
right, and also I might want to say something about the orange juice, but I am not going to work myself up anymore by bringing up that orange juice situation and going on and on about the orange juice, because I'm then indulging in my fearful temper. And I have enough trouble with fearful temper. I can blame myself real easy. Which is why tonight I was happy to hear everybody say they endorsed themselves for the effort.